The great chamber floated in the darkness of space, hanging above a purple world called Thesa Prime. Inside this chamber, 12 ancient species had gathered to decide the fate of a small blue planet called Earth. Ambassador Yoon Daeho stood alone in the center of the room. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. For 30 years, he had served as Earth's voice among the stars. Today that voice would not be enough. The tribunal sat in a curved row above him. They were creatures of different shapes and sizes. Some had scales. Some had wings. Some had no solid form at all. But they all shared one thing. They all looked at humanity with fear in their eyes. "The vote is complete," said the High Speaker, a being made of living crystal. His voice echoed through the chamber like breaking glass. Earth has been found guilty of uncontrolled expansion potential. The sentence is planetary sterilization. The execution will happen within 1 solar cycle. Daeho felt his heart stop for a moment. He had expected this. He had prepared for this. But hearing the words still felt like a knife in his chest. "May I speak?" he asked. His voice was calm. He had practiced being calm for a very long time. "You may speak. But the decision is final," the High Speaker replied. Daeho looked up at the 12 species, who had just condemned 8 billion people to death. "I want to understand," he said. "We have done nothing wrong. We have not attacked anyone. We have not threatened anyone. Why must we die?" A creature called Veth rose from his seat. He was commander of the Pale Reach, the hegemony's extermination fleet. His skin was white as bone, and his eyes were black as the void between stars. "It is not what you have done," Veth said. "It is what you will do." "We have watched your species for 200 years, another council member added. She was Myth, an elder counselor with 4 arms and silver blood running through transparent skin. "We have seen your wars, your violence, your endless hunger for more." "All species have conflict," Daeho replied. "This is not unique to humans. But you are unique in one way," Myth continued. "When threatened, you do not break. You unite. You grow stronger. Every challenge makes you more dangerous. Given time, you will surpass us all. This cannot be allowed." "Ow!" Wanted to argue. He wanted to scream. But he knew that nothing he said would change their minds. These ancient species had decided humanity's fate long before this trial began. "How long do we have?" he asked quietly. "The fleet will arrive at your world in 90 of your Earth days," Veth answered. There was no emotion in his voice. To him, this was simply business. "It will be quick. We are not cruel. You're ending 8 billion lives," Daeho said. "That seems cruel enough." The High Speaker raised one crystalline hand. "This session is concluded. The human ambassador will be held here until the execution is complete. He will be released after to serve as a witness for future species who might follow the same path." Guards approached Daeho. They were tall beings with mechanical limbs and empty faces. As they took his arms, Daeho did not resist. But he did reach into his pocket and press a small button hidden there. A single word transmitted across the galaxy at faster than light speed. It traveled through secret channels that no alien scanner had ever detected. It bounced through hidden relay stations buried in asteroids and moons. And finally, it reached a bunker 3 kilometers beneath Mount Dew on Earth. The word was ARES. General Park Suman was 60 years old. She had gray hair cut short and a face marked by decades of hard decisions. When the word appeared on her screen, she closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She had hoped this day would never come. She had prayed for it, even though she was not a religious woman. But hope and prayer were not strategies. Preparation was a strategy. And humanity had been preparing for 40 years. She picked up a phone that connected to no network the aliens knew about. "This is General Park," she said. "Authorization code Omega-7. Activate Protocol ARES." Across the world, things began to happen. An assault mine in Poland, machines that had been sleeping for decades, woke up. In the deep ocean off the coast of Japan, factories hidden in underwater caves started their engines. In the frozen north of Canada, tire complexes buried beneath the ice came to life. The aliens had watched Earth very carefully. They had scanned every military base, every research facility, every rocket launch. They thought they knew everything about humanity. They thought they had seen all of Earth's secrets. They had seen exactly what humanity wanted them to see. Dr. Kim. Hannah stood in a control room that did not officially exist. She was the chief architect of ARES, the woman who had spent her entire adult life building something she hoped would never be used. All systems are responding, her assistant reported. Manufacturing facilities are at full power. Fleet construction is ahead of schedule. Hannah nodded slowly. On her screens, she could see the numbers. 90 days. That was all the time they had. 90 days to finish building a navy that had been under construction in secret for 4 decades. What about the lunar facility? She asked. The Gianza is at 92% completion, the assistant answered. It will be ready in 60 days. The Warrior. A ship so large, it had been built inside the moon itself. A ship designed for one purpose, to fight the extermination fleet and win. Hannah looked at a photograph on her desk. It showed her parents, her sister, her young nephew, all the people she was fighting to protect. They think we are primitive, she said quietly. They think we are helpless. She turned to face her team. These were the best scientists and engineers on Earth. They had worked in secret for years, knowing that one day, this moment would come. Let us show them what humans can do when our backs are against the wall, Hannah said. Let us show them why they should have left us alone. In the darkness of space, the extermination fleet began its journey toward Earth. 3,000 ships carrying enough firepower to burn 100 worlds. They expected to find a planet full of scared, primitive creatures. They had no idea what was waiting for them. 60 days had passed since the death sentence. 60 days of work without rest. 60 days of building, planning, and waiting. Lieutenant Choi Jin-ho stood on the surface of the moon and watched the ground split open. He was 26 years old. He had joined the military at 18, not knowing that he was being trained for a war that might never come. For 8 years he had learned to fight in space, to command ships that officially did not exist, to prepare for an enemy he had never seen. Now that enemy was coming, and Jin-ho was about to see the weapon humanity had built to stop them. The lunar surface cracked like an egg. Dust that had been still for 1 billion years rose into the black sky. And from beneath the dead rock, something massive began to rise. The Gianza was 3 kilometers long. It was shaped like a sword, with a blade of metal and a heart of captured starlight. Inside it, Singularity, a tiny black hole, provided enough power to light a city for 1,000 years. Jin-ho had seen the blueprints. He had studied every deck, every weapon system, every escape route, but seeing it in person was different. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. All crew report to stations, a voice said in his helmet. It was arrest the artificial intelligence that would help them fight. The voice was calm and warm, modeled after someone's grandmother. Dr. Kim had designed it that way. She said that, in times of fear, people needed to hear a voice that felt like home. Jin-ho walked toward the transport that would take him aboard. Around him, thousands of other soldiers were doing the same thing. They came from every country on Earth. They spoke different languages and believed different things. But today, they were all one crew. Nervous? Asked the woman walking beside him. Her name was Beek Yuri. She was 30 years old, captain and one of the best pilots in the fleet. She had short black hair and a small scar on her chin from a training accident years ago. Terrified, Jin-ho admitted. Same, Yuri said with a small smile. But I have been terrified before. You learn to work through it. They boarded the transport together. As it lifted off the lunar surface, Jin-ho looked down at the moon. More ships were emerging now. 12 dreadnoughts, each one 1 kilometer long. 50 destroyers, 100 frigates, and countless smaller craft. This was humanity's hidden fleet. Built in secret over 40 years, hidden from every alien scanner, waiting for the day when the galaxy would try to kill them, back on Earth. The preparations continued. Sergeant O'Mare stood in the middle of Seoul, watching the city transform. Buildings that had looked like offices and apartments were opening up to reveal weapon platforms hidden inside. Parks and plazas were being converted into shield generator stations. The entire city was becoming a fortress. Mireille was 32 years old. She had joined the army to pay for university and had stayed because she found a family there. Now she was responsible for coordinating the ground defenses of one of Earth's largest cities. The alien fleet will reach the outer solar system in 30 days, her radio crackled. All ground forces prepare for possible orbital bombardment. Mireille looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, her younger brother was aboard one of the ships. Gin-ho, she had not seen him in 2 years. She might never see him again, but there was no time for fear. There was only time for work. Team leaders report in, she said into her radio. I want all civilians moved to underground shelters by the end of the week. No exceptions. In orbit around Earth, Dr. Kim Hannah watched the fleet assemble on her screens. She had not slept in 3 days. Her eyes were red, her hands shook from too much coffee, her mind was filled with numbers and calculations. ARES spoke to her through a small speaker on her desk. Dr. Kim, you need to rest. Human efficiency decreases significantly without sleep. I will rest when this is over, Hannah replied. If you collapse from exhaustion, you will not be able to help anyone, ARES said gently. Please, 20 minutes. I will wake you if anything happens. Hannah wanted to argue, but she knew the AI was right. She leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. 20 minutes later, ARES woke her with a soft chime. The enemy fleet has been detected at the edge of the solar system, the AI said. They will arrive in 29 days. Hannah opened her eyes and looked at her screens. 3,000 red dots were moving toward the center of the display. 3,000 ships coming to end her world. How does our fleet compare? She asked. We have 173 combat vessels, ARES answered. The enemy outnumbers us approximately 20 to 1. 20 to 1, Hannah repeated. Those are bad odds, as ARES agreed. But numbers are not everything. We have advantages they do not expect. Our ships are faster and more agile. Our weapons are designed specifically to counter their technology. And we have been preparing for this fight for 40 years. They have not. Anna nodded slowly. She looked at the photograph on her desk again. Her family. Her reason for fighting, the hegemony thinks this will be easy, she said. They think they are coming to kill helpless animals. They are wrong, ARES said. Yes, Hannah agreed. They are wrong. In the command center of the Gyeonsa General Park Soo-min addressed the fleet. In 29 days, the enemy will arrive, she said. Her voice was broadcast to every ship, every station, every soldier in humanity's secret military. They are coming to destroy our planet, to kill our families, to end our species. She paused and looked at the faces around her. Young faces, scared faces, determined faces. They think we do not know how to fight, Park continued. They think we are weak because we hid our strength. But we did not hide because we are weak. We hid because we are patient. We hid because we wanted them to underestimate us. She raised her hand and pointed toward the distant stars. Now they will learn the truth. Humans do not surrender. Humans do not give up. When you push us to the edge, we push back harder than you can imagine. The crew of the Gyeonsa cheered. The sound echoed through the massive ship. A sound of defiance and hope. Park allowed herself a small smile. The war was about to begin. The Battle of the Kuiper Belt began on a Tuesday. Commander Veth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Pale Judgment, and watched the blue dot of Earth grow larger on his screens. He had done this many times before. He had burned 17 worlds for the hegemony. He had ended species that had existed for millions of years. This would be no different. The human fleet has been detected, his second officer reported. 173 vessels. They are moving to intercept. Veth made a sound that might have been laughter. 173? Against 3,000? They are either brave or stupid. Perhaps both, his officer suggested. No matter, Veth said. Begin the attack. Destroy them quickly. I want to reach Earth by the end of the week. The hegemony fleet spread out like a net, ready to catch and crush the tiny human force. Their weapons powered up, filling space with the hum of energy that could crack planets. They did not see the mines. Captain Beak Yuri watched through her view screen as the first hegemony ships exploded. The mines had been placed years ago, hidden in asteroids and comets throughout the outer solar system. They were small, patient, and deadly. First wave complete, ARES reported in her ear. Enemy casualties? 47 vessels? Only 47? Yuri asked. We need to do better than that. We will, ARES promised. Yuri commanded the Silent Dawn, stealth destroyer that could move through space without being detected. She led a pack of 12 similar ships, all of them designed for one purpose, to hunt. All Wolfpack units. This is Captain Beak, she said into her radio. We go in fast and quiet. Hit their supply ships first. Without fuel and ammunition, their warships are useless. Understood? 12 voices confirmed. The Silent Dawn slid through the darkness, invisible to enemy sensors. Behind her, 11 other ships followed like shadows. On the Gyeonsa, Lieutenant Choi Jin-ho stood at his station and watched the battle unfold. His job was to coordinate fighter squadrons to direct thousands of small craft in the chaos of combat. He had trained for this for years. But training was different from reality. Enemy formation is breaking, ARES observed. They did not expect the mines. They are confused. Confusion does not last forever, General Park replied. She stood in the center of the bridge, calm as a statue. We need to hurt them while they are still adjusting. She turned to Jin-ho. Lieutenant, send in the first fighter wave. Target their sensor ships. Make them blind. General Jin-ho said. His fingers moved across his controls. All fighter squadrons, attack pattern Delta. Priority targets are sensor vessels. Go. 2,000 small fighters launched from the human fleet. They were fast and agile, piloted by men and women who had spent years preparing for this moment. They flew into the heart of the enemy formation like a swarm of angry bees. The hegemony had never fought an enemy like this. Their weapons were designed to destroy large, slow targets. Against thousands of tiny, fast-moving fighters, they struggled. Veth watched his sensor ships explode one by one. For the first time in his long career, he felt something he had almost forgotten. Doubt, double quotes. How is this possible? He demanded. These humans are supposed to be primitive. Where did they get this technology? Where did they get these tactics? No one on his bridge had an answer. Fall back to defensive formation, Veth ordered. Concentrate fire on their main vessels. Ignore the fighters for now. It was a mistake. The human fighters were not just attacking sensor ships. They were also dropping more mines. They were planting targeting beacons on hegemony vessels. They were opening small holes in shields that larger weapons could exploit. Captain. Beak Yuri and her wolf pack struck during the confusion. The Silent Dawn emerged from the darkness directly behind a hegemony supply convoy. Before the enemy could react, 12 destroyers opened fire. The supply ships were not built for combat. They carried fuel, food, and ammunition for the main fleet. They were the heart that kept the hegemony war machine alive. In 3 minutes, that heart was destroyed. Supply convoy eliminated, Yuri reported. Moving to secondary targets. Well done, Captain, General Park replied. But do not get comfortable. They will adapt. She was right. The hegemony was old and powerful for a reason. They learned quickly. Within an hour, the alien fleet had changed its tactics. Instead of spreading out, they formed a tight sphere, protecting their remaining support vessels. Their weapons fired in coordinated patterns, creating walls of energy that the human fighters could not penetrate. Casualties are increasing, ARES warned. We have lost 23 vessels. Enemy losses are at 412. Park looked at the numbers. They were winning for now, but they could not sustain these losses forever. The hegemony had thousands of ships to spare. Humanity did not. Pull back the fighters, she ordered. Begin Phase 2. On Earth, Sergeant O. Murray watched the battle through a screen in her command bunker. The images were delayed by several minutes because of the distance, but she could see enough. Flashes of light, Ships exploding. The cold darkness of space filled with fire and death. "Your brother is out there," said the soldier beside her. His name was Han Tai-Yang, and he was her best friend in the unit. "I know," Myre replied. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "He will be okay," Tai-Yang said. "He is smart. He is careful." Myre did not answer. She could not afford to think about Jinho right now. There were 10 million people in Seoul, counting on her to keep them safe. Her personal fears would have to wait. "Status report on evacuation," she said into her radio. 92% of civilians are now in underground shelters," came the reply. "We should reach 100% within 6 hours. "Make it 4 hours," Myre ordered. "The battle is not going to wait for us." Back in space, the second phase of humanity's plan began. Hidden throughout the asteroid belt, weapons platforms that had been sleeping for decades powered up. They were not ships. They could not move or retreat, but they did not need to. They were positioned perfectly, placed years ago based on calculations of where the enemy fleet would be. One by one, they fired. Beams of concentrated light cut through the darkness. Missiles launched from rocks that had seemed dead. Weapons that the hegemony had never seen before struck their ships from angles they could not defend. "Commander." Veth felt his flagship shake as a nearby vessel exploded. Debris peppered the Pale Judgment's shields, making them flash with desperate energy. "How?" he whispered. How did they plan this? He was beginning to understand. The humans had not been hiding because they were weak. They had been hiding because they were preparing. Every day, every year. Every decade, they had been getting ready for this exact moment. And he had walked right into their trap. "All ships," Veth ordered, his voice heavy with new respect and fear, "prepare for a long fight. This will not be as easy as we thought." The first day of battle ended with the hegemony losing. 400 ships. The humans had lost 30, but this was only the beginning. On Thesa Prime, the Galactic Assembly watched the battle in shocked silence. Elder Counselor Myth stared at the holographic display floating in the center of the chamber. Red dots representing hegemony ships were disappearing at a rate that should have been impossible. Blue dots representing human vessels danced through the enemy formation like water flowing through cracks in stone. "This cannot be real," said a council member from the Crystalline Collective. "Our scans showed them as a primitive species. They should not have this technology." "And yet they do," Myth replied. Her voice was calm, but inside, she felt ice spreading through her silver blood. For 200 years, hegemony had watched Earth. They had sent probes, spies, and diplomatic missions. They had scanned every inch of the planet, cataloged every weapon, counted every soldier. They knew exactly what humanity was capable of, or so they had thought. "Bring the human ambassador," Myth ordered. "I want to understand how we failed so completely." Ambassador Yoon Dae-ho was brought to the chamber in energy chains. He had been held in a comfortable prison for the past 90 days, waiting to be released after his species was destroyed. He had been patient. He had been polite. He had given no sign that he expected anything other than death. Now, standing before the assembly, he smiled. "You wish to speak with me?" he asked Maya, pointed at the battle display. "Explain this. Your species was supposed to be helpless. Our intelligence said you had no fleet, no advanced weapons, nothing that could threaten even a minor hegemony patrol." "Your intelligence was wrong," Dae-ho said simply. Obviously, Myth snapped. "But how? We watched you for 2 centuries. We saw everything. You saw what we wanted you to see." The chamber fell silent. Every council member, every observer, every guard stopped and listened. Dae-ho continued, his voice calm and measured. "When we first detected your observation probes, we were frightened. We knew we were not alone in the universe, and we knew that the universe might not be friendly." He began to pace slowly, his chains clinking with each step. "We studied your probes. We learned how they worked, and we learned how to fool them." "Impossible," said the High Speaker. "Our technology is far beyond yours." "You could not have. We are very good at learning," Dae-ho interrupted. "It is one of our defining traits. When we saw your probes, we did not try to destroy them. We did not try to hide from them. Instead, we showed them exactly what they expected to see. He turned to face the assembly directly. Every failed rocket launch was staged. Every primitive weapon was a prop. Every war we fought was real, but we made sure to hide our best technology from your eyes. For 200 years, Myth asked, her voice barely a whisper. For 200 years, Deho confirmed. Every generation of humans has grown up knowing that someday the aliens might come to destroy us. Every child has learned to keep our secrets. Every scientist has worked on projects that officially did not exist. He gestured at the battle display. The fleet you see fighting now was built in secret over 40 years. The ships were constructed in hidden facilities underground, underwater, inside moons and asteroids. Anywhere your probes could not see. But why? Another council member demanded. Why go to such lengths? Why not simply build your forces openly and use them as a threat to prevent attack? Deho shook his head. Because you are old. Your species have existed for millions of years. You have seen countless young species rise and fall. You have learned to identify threats and destroy them before they become dangerous. He pointed at the council members. If we had shown you our true strength, you would have attacked sooner, with more force. You would have brought 10,000 ships instead of 3,000. You would have bombed our planet from orbit before we could respond. So you hid, Myth said slowly, understanding dawning in her ancient eyes. So we hid, Deho agreed. We let you think we were weak. We let you plan a small, quick extermination. And when you finally came for us, we were ready. The battle display showed another cluster of hegemony ships exploding. The human fleet was taking losses too, but far fewer than the aliens. Commander Veth is losing, Myth observed. Yes, Deho said. He is. What will happen when your fleet defeats his? Deho's smile faded. His eyes became hard. Then we will come here. Not to destroy, we are not interested in genocide. But to make something very clear, he stepped forward. And despite the chains, despite the guards, despite being surrounded by beings who could kill him with a thought, he seemed to grow larger. Humanity will not be threatened again. Any species that tries to harm our world will face the same fate as Commander Veth's fleet. This is not a negotiation. This is a fact. Myth looked at the other council members. For the first time in thousands of years, the ancient powers of the galaxy felt something they had nearly forgotten. Fear, back at the battle. Things were getting worse for the hegemony captain. Beak Yuri and her wolf pack had destroyed 3 more supply convoys. The enemy fleet was running low on fuel and ammunition. Ships that should have been firing at maximum power were forced to conserve their weapons. Lieutenant Choi Jin-ho had lost count of how many orders he had given. His voice was hoarse, his eyes burned from staring at screens, and his hands ached from constant typing. But he did not stop. He could not stop. Wolfpack 6 is requesting support, ARES reported. They are engaged with enemy destroyers near Sector 7. Send Fighter Squadron 12 to assist, Ginho ordered. And have the GNC's main battery target those destroyers. Give Wolfpack 6 some breathing room. The massive ship's main weapon E-beam of focused gravitational energy fired. A kilometer-long lance of twisted space shot across the void and struck the enemy destroyers. They did not explode so much as crumple. Crushed by forces they could not resist, General Park watched the battle from her command chair. She had not moved in hours. Her body was tired, but her mind was sharp. Day 5, she said quietly. We are still alive. Barely, Dr. Kim Hanna's voice came through the communication system. She was still on Earth, coordinating ARES and the remaining ground forces. We have lost 47 ships. The enemy has lost over 1,000, but they still outnumber us. Numbers are not everything, Park replied. You said that yourself. I was being optimistic, Hanna admitted. General, we cannot keep this up forever. Eventually, they will adapt. Eventually, they will overwhelm us. Park nodded slowly. She knew Hanna was right. The hegemony was learning. Each day their tactics improved. Each day they found new ways to counter humanity's tricks. But humanity was learning too, Ares Park said. What is the enemy's current morale assessment? Based on communication, intercepts, and behavioral analysis, enemy morale has decreased by approximately 40% since the battle began, the AI replied. Many crew members are expressing fear and confusion. Commander Veth has executed 3 officers for cowardice. Park allowed herself a small, grim smile. They thought they were coming to slaughter animals. Instead, they found themselves in a real fight. Some of them have never experienced this before. That is correct, ARES confirmed. The hegemony has not faced a true military challenge in over 10,000 years. Their soldiers are not prepared for losses, and we will give them more losses, Park said. ARES, begin Phase 3. Phase 3 confirmed, ARES replied. Deploying psychological warfare protocols across the hegemony fleet, strange things began to happen. Lights flickered. Systems reported false errors. Strange sounds echoed through hallways. And on every screen, every display, every communication channel, a message appeared. It was a simple message. Written in the hegemony's own language, "We are coming for you," Commander Veth read the message and felt cold. Spread through his white skin, he was no longer certain that his fleet would survive. The Battle of Earth's orbit lasted 11 days. On day 3, General Park Suman died. A hegemony, siege weapon, massive cannon that fired concentrated plasmas struck the GNO's command bridge. The shields held for 3 seconds. Then they failed. Lieutenant Choi Jin-ho was thrown across the room by the explosion. When he opened his eyes, half the bridge was gone. Smoke and fire filled the air, and General Park lay motionless beneath a fallen beam. Jin-ho crawled toward her, ignoring the blood running down his own face. "General, can you hear me?" Park opened her eyes. They were calm even now. "Lieutenant, you need to take command." "No. No, we can get you to medical." "We can. There is no time." Park coughed, and Jin-ho saw that she was hurt far worse than he had realized. "The fleet needs a leader. You have been trained for this. You are ready." "I am not ready," Jin-ho whispered. "I am 26 years old. I cannot. You can." Park reached up and touched his face with a bloody hand. "I have watched you, Jin-ho. You have your father's courage and your mother's wisdom. You will lead them." Her eyes began to close. "General? General." But Park Suman was gone. Jin-ho knelt there for a long moment, holding the hand of the woman who had led humanity's defense. Around him, the surviving bridge crew waited in silence. Then he stood. "ARES," he said. His voice was steady now. "Broadcast to all ships. This is Lieutenant Choi Jin-ho, assuming command of the Jiansa and the human fleet. General Park has fallen. We will honor her by finishing what she started." He walked to the command chair and sat down. It felt too big for him. It felt like a throne he had not earned. But there was no one else. "All ships continue the attack," he ordered. "We do not stop. We do not surrender. We fight until they are gone or we are." On day 7, the Silent Dawn was destroyed. Captain Beak Yuri had pushed too hard. Her wolf pack had been hunting for days without rest, striking at the enemy again and again. But the hegemony had finally learned to track them. 3 enemy cruisers ambushed the Silent Dawn while she was attacking a fuel ship. The first volley took out her engines. The second breached her hull. "All hands, abandon ship," Yuri ordered. She stayed at her command post until the last escape pod was away, then ran for the emergency airlock. She made it with 12 others. Behind them, the Silent Dawn exploded in a ball of fire. Yuri floated in the darkness of space, watching her ship die. She had commanded that vessel for 5 years. It had been her home. "Captain Beak, this is Medical Frigate Hope. We have your location." "Hold on." Yuri closed her eyes. She was exhausted, wounded, and heartbroken. But she was alive. "Copy that, Hope," she replied. "We are holding." On Earth, Dr. Kim Hanna worked without sleep. ARES was struggling. The AI had been designed to coordinate a fleet, but the battle had grown larger and more complex than anyone had predicted. Subroutines were failing. Processing power was running low. "Doctor, I am experiencing significant degradation, ARES reported. The voice was still calm, but Hannah could hear a hint of something underneath. Fear, perhaps. If an AI could feel fear... I know, Hannah said. I am working on it. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Lines of code scrolled past faster than any normal human could read. But Hannah was not a normal human. She had built ARES. She knew its mind better than anyone. There, she said finally. I have rerouted your secondary processes through the ground-based servers. It should give you more capacity. Processing, yes. That is better. Thank you, Doctor. Do not thank me yet, Hannah replied. We still have a battle to win. By day 9, the hegemony fleet had lost 60% of its ships. Commander Veth stood on his damaged bridge and stared at the display. 1,500 vessels gone. 1,500 ships crewed by soldiers who had never expected to die in battle. His own flagship was wounded. Half its weapons were offline. Its shields flickered constantly. It would not survive another direct hit. Commander's second officer said quietly, We should withdraw. We can return with reinforcements. Veth said nothing for a long moment. His black eyes reflected the distant light of Earth, the planet he had come to destroy. You are right, he finally admitted. Signal the fleet. All ships retreat to hegemony space. We will. We will return another day. But Veth knew the truth. The hegemony would not return. This defeat had broken something. The ancient powers of the galaxy had learned that humanity was not prey. Humanity was a predator. On day 11, the last hegemony ship fled the solar system. Admiral Choi. Janohi had been promoted during the battle, stood on the rebuilt bridge of the Gianza and watched them go. He was not the same man he had been 11 days ago. He had aged a decade in less than 2 weeks. They are gone, ARES reported. Enemy forces have completely withdrawn. Around Ginho, the bridge crew began to cheer. The sound spread through the ship, then to the fleet, then to Earth itself. 8 billion people celebrated their survival. But Jinho did not cheer. He looked at the casualty reports. 63 human ships lost. 12,000 soldiers dead. Cities damaged by debris that had fallen from orbit. They had won. But the cost had been terrible. ARES, he said quietly, set course for Thessaprime. Understood, Admiral. The Gianza began its journey across the stars. It was damaged, scarred, and had lost many of its crew, but it was still alive. And it carried a message that the galaxy needed to hear. 3 weeks later, the human fleet appeared in hegemony space. Ambassador Yoon Daeho walked into the Galactic Assembly one more time. This time he was not in chains. This time he had Admiral Choi Jin-ho at his side. The council members stared at them in silence. Fear and respect mixed in their ancient eyes. You sentenced us to death, Daeho said. His voice echoed through the chamber. We have come to discuss terms. The terms were simple. Humanity would not be ruled. Humanity would not be contained. Any species that threatened Earth would face the full force of the human fleet. In return, humanity would not seek revenge for the attempted genocide. They would join the galactic community as equals, not as servants or enemies. These terms are acceptable, Elder Counselor Myth said finally. Her voice was heavy with defeat. The hegemony recognizes humanity as a sovereign species. Daeho nodded. Then we are done here. He turned and walked out of the chamber, Ginho beside him, back on Earth. The celebrations continued for weeks. Sergeant O'Murray finally saw her brother again. Ginho no Admiral Ginhoke came home to Seoul to visit the city he had helped protect. When Murray saw him, she ran forward and hugged him so hard that he could not breathe. You are alive, she whispered. I am alive, he confirmed. We are all alive. Captain Bikiori received a new ship. She named it the Silent Dawn II. Her new crew was young and eager, ready to protect humanity from whatever threats might come next. Dr. Kim Hannah went back to her laboratory. ARES was still running, still watching, still protecting. She had made the AI to save humanity. It had done its job. But its work was not finished. The universe was still dangerous. The stars were still full of species who might see humanity as a threat, but now everyone knew what happened when you tried to kill humans. They fought back in the rebuilt command center of the Gyanza. Admiral Ginho looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, other species were watching, waiting, wondering what humanity would do next. He smiled. "Let them watch," he said softly. "Let them see what we are capable of." Behind him, ARES spoke in its gentle voice. "They called us primitive. They called us weak. They condemned us to die in darkness. We proved them wrong," Jinho finished. Above Earth, the human fleet patrolled the skies. A small blue planet once dismissed as insignificant had become something the galaxy would never forget. Humanity had arrived and they were here to stay.